Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PGA Draft Cast, brought to you by WinDailySports.com. Just a quick reminder that WinDaily Sports doesn't just cover golf. They cover the NFL, the NHL, MLB, NBA, soccer, MMA, NASCAR, you name the sport. WinDaily Sports has projection models, optimizers, articles, and our famous Discord chat to cover it all. Now, if you click the promo link below and you type in Win Big or Green, you will get 1 week free of WinDaily. And then after that, it is just $5.99 per week for all of that, including some of our betting content. Now, let's get to the PGA DraftCast, where we have proven track records with Joel, Spencer, David, and myself. Let's have some fun. Get in the chat. Make sure you subscribe to the page, and make sure you hit the like button. Let's do this snake draft. Let's do the PGA DraftCast. Let's do it right now.
PGA Nation, we are back. The US Open. I am so excited for this week. I almost feel like they've oversold the course because they're making it so exciting. This new look, LA Country Club, the exclusivity, no one's seen it. I'm so excited to watch this week that if it's not like the coolest golf course I've ever seen, I'm going to be super disappointed and people are going to be upset. So let's just move forward as if it's going to be amazing, and let's all win some money tonight on the DraftCast. See ya. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Can't wait for the US Open. I'm still kind of giddy at the fact that all these guys that we're going to see that we don't normally see from the LIV Tour are all going to be on the same tour. Like, I don't know, what does that start? Probably next PGA Tour season. So I just love the state of golf right now. So yeah, listen, you guys know, and everybody listening knows, and I make no secret about it. I'm really excited about LACC. I'm really excited about the US Open. But the truth is, I'm excited every single week, particularly on Mondays when pricing comes out. I don't care what tournament it is. I am equally as excited. So this will be cool, especially because it's on the West Coast. We're going to get some golf kind of later on. We're going to have all the heavy hitters here. Super excited. But honestly, welcome to last week, the week before that, the week from now. Same thing.
I do think you made a really good point. This has got to be the closest golf has gotten to WWE ever, right? Like, there's legitimate rivalries. There's fights. I mean, it's dramatic. It's great stuff. Spence, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I mean, I guess Zach wants to see me tilting on this show, but you got to give the people what they want sometimes.
I love it. I love it. And I can't forget about David coming off a big 66-1 outright. What was the feeling when that ridiculous 75-footer went in?
Probably a similar, if not better, reaction to the entire crowd. It was a sweaty last hour as we went through those 4 playoff holes, and it really looked like neither of them wanted to win it. You know, Nick Taylor came in there off 2 missed cuts, but really key for me was his wedge play this season on the PGA Tour has just been so good. And we were kind of contrarian to what I saw the rest of the market doing. I heard a lot of this is going to be an easy course. It's going to be ultra low scoring. You know, we're gonna want to be able to like drive and overpower this course. And I saw something quite different with heavy rough and driving actually playing a key role. And it worked out. You know, that ended up being the right way to do it. Our DFS score in the WinDaily Discord was absolutely awesome as well. We had Rose, Kuchar, Hubbard, Rose and Hubbard particularly both finishing in the top 10, and very easy to combine that with the frisky biscuit from Stephen Pilati, which Andrew Novak was an insane pick. So well done to Stephen, whose tips have been absolutely fire. If you're not in WinDaily, I don't know what you're doing.
Get in there. The picks are fire, and it's going to be a big week this week. As we've already stated, we're super excited to learn more about this course. Now, Spence, you got your work cut out for you this week because there's no history. So you got very little to work off of. But a lot of people are talking about the course online. So give us your breakdown. What are you looking for at the course this week?
Yeah, so we have Los Angeles Country Club, 7,314 yards. That's going to move a little bit depending on the day. Par 70 bent grass greens. It's going to be Bermuda rough. As you said, Joel, like we're stuck in another one of those spots where there is zero long-term data to try and decipher from this week. I don't know if I would necessarily give that answer just because I think anytime you see US Open venues, you get a lot of similarities between how they play from season to season for when you try to extrapolate out the numbers there. That's going to be fast and firm surfaces. It's going to be challenging courses. I think all of that kind of gives you that same general expectation over and over again. I think you need to keep that in mind when you run a model, but we still need to be careful with that viewpoint since there are so many unique characteristics of this track that will be pronounced throughout. We're going to have this wide open look off the tee. There's some holes that possess a 70 to 80 yards of width on these fairways. That typically points many in the direction of a bomb and gouge mentality. I don't necessarily think that's the correct answer here, just because when I watch the flyovers, this looked like a second shot course. It's speedy near the greens. And I have heard the answer recently that it's a little bit softer as of this moment, but we've heard that before for US Opens, and all of a sudden you get the Saturday and this thing is so baked out that balls can't stop on the green. So I still think it's going to be firm and fast. You have par threes that are stretching 300 yards, not a true total just because it's downhill. But I think the easiest answer to give here that is at least something that everybody can look into is there's strategy, there's elevation changes, there's blind shots, there's sloping lies. All of that to me makes me want to have a 5-tool player. And that's including with the putter here. Maybe it's a 3-putt avoidance answer. You can run it however you want to look at it, but I'm looking for that 5-tool player that has every shot in the bag here for a US Open.
There you have it. I love it. I love it. Very important information, especially as you look to break down this field. There's obviously all the studs in it. So how to differentiate from the greatest golfers in the world is look at the course, look at what the strengths are. And with what Spencer's saying, you're going to need all of them to be able to have success here. So without further ado, let's dive right into the draft. I'm going to pull the draft board up. As we mentioned, Model Maniac won last week, but I got second. Just a reminder, I'm still up there to be dethroned. But the order this week is going to be Sia Audience, David, Spencer, and then myself. As a quick reminder, in case anyone is new to the DraftCast, the way it works is it's your standard snake draft like you would in a fantasy league. The audience will go first, and then I will go last with 2 picks until we come back again. The big caveat is you do have to stay within the DraftKings salary. So you can't just take all the best golfers. Make sure you budget along the way.
I'll tell you what, it looks like we already have our first overall pick. And if there's any controversy about that, I will go ahead and second. If not, it's actually a 4th for Brooks Koepka. DT in Phoenix has him. Jack Fisher has him. LLK 517, super catchy name there. Listen, I think we're going to have to go with Brooks Koepka here. And I don't think, first of all, when I look at ownership, and again, we'll have to wait for Stephen Pilardi's ownership article at WinDailySports.com tomorrow, but ownership doesn't really look out of control at all. In fact, it looks like much lower than Scottie Scheffler and some guys like Victor Hovland, Rory, and Xander Schauffele. So you're getting good ownership on Brooks. And honestly, from a win equity standpoint, I think he's right up there with Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler. So why not take the financial discount as well? So I'm big on Brooks Koepka. We know he won the PGA Championship. He contended at the Masters. He's been good on LIV for, I believe, the last 3 months. What's not to like? Spencer, I want to ask you, a lot of times you have the first pick. Lately, it's been Joel. But would Brooks have been your first pick, or would you have gone? Don't tell us where you would have gone because you have a pick in a second. But would Brooks have been on the radar for you as the first overall pick?
No, but the answer to that is I'm not a Brooks guy at the end of the day. I think you have ownership leverage that can be created with Brooks. I'd probably rather play a handful of the names around him. I like him more this week than I ever have. I think he's a very safe option near the top. He's inside the top 10 of my model, which, as easy of an answer as that sounds, that's not always the case for me here. So I think US Opens are really good for him. I probably would have gone somewhere else. But no, to answer that question, Zia.
Joel, I'm going to ask you the same exact question. If you had the first pick, would it have been Brooks?
The answer is no, it wouldn't have been. But I do like Brooks a lot. The reason it would have been no is because the way my strategy for this week is to be more balanced. And it's just hard for me to get to a player that expensive.
All right. Interesting. So you're going to have back-to-back picks in a second. So we'll see if that holds true. David, it's your pick, but obviously I want you to comment on the Brooks Koepka in terms of being the first overall pick. But before I do that, David, and before I kick it over to you for your pick, Back Nine Bets is in here. He's got multiple names, multiple personalities, especially if you watch a show, that, right? Because he's dressed a different way and he's just hilarious. But I got to hand it to Byron. He won last week. And so we have to give him his due. Everybody at home, first of all, thank you for watching. This is going to be a really fun show. We're going to try to keep the pace up just a little bit, so it's even going to go smoother than normal. But everybody at home, first of all, hit the like button if you haven't already. But can you just give an applause for Byron? And like, even if it's like late where you are and your kids are asleep or something, I want you to give him an applause anyway. And if a loved one is like, hey, what are you doing? Just be like, oh, Byron won last week for Team C audience. And like, say it super matter-of-factly, like that person should know what you're talking about because Byron deserves it. All right, David, let me kick it over to you. Brooks, yes or no as the first overall pick in the PGA Draft Cast? And who's your first overall pick?
I don't know that I would have taken him for the first pick, but I do think he's in an interesting position because you've got Scheffler and Rahm just above him, which I think is going to attract a lot of ownership, and that just naturally makes it really difficult to get to Koepka, right? We know what he can do in major championships. I just point out he hasn't played last week. He tends to like to play the week before a tournament, so there would be perhaps something to keep an eye on. But I think he's a great differential in terms of ownership from what I can see at the moment. My top pick, I'm going to go someone who I also think is going to be missing in ownership a little bit, just given the pricing. And it's a product of UCLA. UCLA is 5 minutes drive away from LA Country Club. He's had the opportunity to play this course over a dozen times, which a lot of these other top price guys have not had that opportunity. So with the first pick in the draft cast, I'll take Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, I like Patrick Cantlay. I was going back and forth personally when I was kind of trying to create my outright card. I only had 3 kind of main outrights and a couple long shots, and I was waffling as my last outright of the 3. I kind of have a longer shot in there, but it was going to be between actually Patrick Cantlay and Brooks Koepka. I like them both quite a bit. Spencer, it's your pick, so we're going to go to you, but just your thoughts on Patrick Cantlay. Is he? I mean, the price seems perfectly fair. The ownership seems more than fair. He's not getting as much ownership as I would have suspected, especially with those California ties that David just mentioned. Is he super high on your list, or is he kind of like where he should be in terms of your model?
I was marginally surprised that the ownership was as low as it was. I mean, we're not saying sub 10% here, but from what we've gotten from Cantlay the past 2 or 3 months in all these tournaments and everybody betting him and these ownership percentages running wild, I kind of was expecting 25%, and we're not reaching that territory right now. So, like, while I like Koepka, and that's kind of the answer I was trying to go to, there's names like Cantlay that I would just rather play if push comes to shove with it. So I like the Cantlay pick, and I also will say I think anybody 10,000 and up is in play. You're just going to have to pick and choose your positions here. There's nobody who's a fade for me.
Joel, I want to ask you something before we get to Spencer's pick, because when you look at the metrics, like Patrick Cantlay looks great. He's got the ties. You figure, he's probably going to win one of these majors at some point. But then again, his major record it's pretty bad, right? Like, at least for Patrick Cantlay, it's pretty bad. And I just wonder, when you're debating between, like, I'm asking you, Joel, specifically, when you're debating Patrick Cantlay versus Brooks Koepka, I mean, Sundays need to matter, right? In terms of the ability to close. And now listen, Cantlay might win the next 3 majors. We don't know. So maybe this narrative will be long gone in 6 months. But I'm just curious, when you're debating between guys like a Brooks Koepka and a Patrick Cantlay, how much do you weight what the history is in terms of closing? Are you not really worried about that because they are so elite, or are you actually like super worried about it?
It depends, right? I think it's something that can be overweighted, and I kind of want to, like, it ties directly to ownership for me, right? I think if people are overweighting it and then overplaying someone, then it's okay to get off. Right? At the end of the day, I think talent is going to overweigh everything else. Now, with the ownership being low, and there's a lot of other factors that you mentioned already that I really like about Cantlay this week, especially the local ties, because of the unknownness of this course and a lot of what I'm reading saying that's very tricky putting greens. Having experience here, I think for someone who is kind of adept at being a good putter and getting hot with the flat stick, I think could weigh to his advantage greatly. So, between Cantlay and Brooks, I think they're both good choices. If you're going to give me a much lower owned Cantlay, I would take him. But if they were both even, you're right. I would give the edge to Brooks because of that experience.
All right, Spencer, it's your pick. Koepka and Cantlay are gone. Who's next?
Do you want to say something, David, first?
Sorry, I just want to jump in very quickly just to respond to the comment about majors. Patrick Cantlay sneakily has finished in the 14th or better in the last 4 majors. So, like, quietly, you put yourself in those positions enough, and he's arriving at a course he's comfortable with. I could see him potentially getting over that hurdle, 4 top 14s in a row in the majors.
Not bad. Not great, but not bad and worth mentioning for sure. Spencer, your pick. Who do you got?
All right, Joel. So how quickly could I get you out of a balanced build here if I don't take a certain player?
I already have my lineup formulated. I'm probably not going to do it.
I mean, based off of that, I should like leave him and then try to make a decision, but I didn't plan on doing this. I wanted to be further back in the draft. Like it's a funny position, and Joel and I are always arguing before, and like if one of us wins, we just put ourselves at the top. But when one of us doesn't win, we're trying to get the number one pick, and Joel and I are arguing who can get the last pick for this draft here. So it's kind of like a complete change there. I wasn't planning to go Scotty Scheffler. I know he's very popular. I have not necessarily tried to build a lineup for tonight with Scheffler, but look, yeah, the putting is a problem. He's 7th in my model when it comes to 3-putt avoidance. So I think he's a really good lag putter. He's going to, from what I understand right now, or at least what he's putting out there, he might put a new putter in the bag this week. Like anything is going to have to help him, but he is putting together an historic tee to green game over the past 6 months. Like we're talking Tiger Woods-esque in the performances that he's putting together. If the putter just at any point can get neutral for him, I think he runs away with this tournament. So I'll try to get some exposure here to Scotty.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about the lag putting with Scotty is that you got it. Like if you get it from 45 feet to 2 feet or 3 feet, you got to make that 3-footer too. And I'm just not 100% sure. But listen, I don't mind the Scotty pick at all. I totally get that. Joel, you've got back-to-back picks. I want you to comment on Scotty Scheffler. Like obviously, we can't like all the guys at the top because we can't fit all the guys at the top in our player pool. And at the top, I'm referring to Scheffler, Rahm, Koepka, Cantlay, Hovland. Now you might end up taking one of these guys. For all I know, but you mentioned balanced build, so maybe you go lower than Victor Hovland at 10K. But I'm just curious, when it comes to Scotty, is he a guy that is like one of your top 2 in the 10K range or above, or are you going somewhere else?
Listen, if price wasn't a factor, Scotty would be my number one play every time. But as strong as this field is, I think about building rosters differently at a major with all the good players in it, because I feel like I can still get 6 very good guys, not including Scotty. Whereas when we play some of these tournaments that aren't majors and, there's 5 or 6 guys in the 9K range I really like, and then it really drops off, he becomes so much more valuable. It's worth spending up on that 11-4 because I just think he's so much higher of the field, where I think it's more neutral here because you get so many more guys, so many more Brookses and Cam Smith that we don't get at those regular fields. And therefore at a major, I'd rather just be balanced. So I love Scotty. He's great. I'm not saying don't play him. It's the 11-4 that makes it tough to build a roster with.
Well, Joel, you mentioned balance, and you just uttered the words Cam Smith. Is that one of the first 2 selections?
He sure is. Yep. I love
Nice.
Cam Smith this week at 9K. The upside is there. And that's my point. I don't think Cam Smith is $2,400 behind Scotty. And if you look at what $2,400 behind Cam Smith is, think about how much big a difference that is. If I can get multiple guys like that and build out a more balanced roster, I think that's going to be more competitive this week. So it's going to be Cam Smith with my first pick. And now I know who I want. I'm debating who I need to take first so they don't get stolen from me. And it's going to be, I'm going to go ahead and take Xander. It's another guy who comes from is from the West Coast, from LA, should have a little bit of the course knowledge and advantage. He loves U.S. Opens. I mean, I think he only has one not top 10 in the U.S. Open, and it was 14. So he always plays well here. He's great at bogey avoidance. And again, it's 9.6, right? So it's $1,800 cheaper than Scotty. So it's another way for me to still leave a lot of salary to build a more balanced approach and not have to dive into the 6K range on some long shots.
Yeah, I mean, these seem like really good picks. David, you kind of winced when he took Xander Schauffele. Is that because you were about to take him?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Cantlay Xanders is one of my favorite ways to start builds this week. This course it's not a links course, but it's probably as close as a US Open is ever going to get to a links type course. And I see quite a few links between this and the Renaissance Club, which hosted the Scottish Open in 2022. Like the winning score there was -7. I think that's probably in the realm of possibilities here. Extremely firm and fast. There was a bit of a win because it was so exposed, but it wasn't like a true links course that you'd usually expect in Scotland. And Xander got the victory there. he's just trending so well. The yardages over 200 yards is going to be a big factor this week for me on approach. Xander kills it in that category. He's one of the best on the tour, and he's just been ultra consistent. I think he can get over the hurdle, as Joel said, a California guy as well. And I like the links that he has. That it's the kind of major that I think Xander is going to tick off is one of these tougher tests where he kind of falls into victory. I don't see him like going out and shooting like 6-7 under and leading wire to wire. It's more of he's going to stick around, he's going to grind out pars, and I think he could very well tick that box this week. So it's a great pick.
Spencer, we're going to go to your pick, but in the chat, I want somebody might actually know definitively the answer to this question. I want somebody to type in the chat, and I understand. I'm bringing this up for a reason. Just trust me on this one. Who led the field ball striking in the PGA Championship? Just type your answer in the chat, and we'll see if anybody gets that right. The 2023 PGA Championship. Spencer, it's your pick.
So I really like Joel's start. That's kind of the general strategy that I was going to also try to take this week. So good job there, Joel. You're on a good way to try to continue to defend this title of yours that you've had. I am going to now be in a spot after taking Scheffler to where I think I need to try to find a way to open up some salary for myself. It's a popular golfer here in the $7,000 range. He's 7th in my model in weighted strokes gained total for this course. He's 10th on firm courses. He's 9th at fast courses. When you put them together, he's inside the top 5 for me. I know David has talked about this golfer a lot over the past couple of months here as a guy that has just really propelled himself into a different level here in 2023. I'm going to take Wyndham Clark to open up a little salary for myself again.
Ooh, Wyndham Clark, a favorite of this show, frankly. So I don't mind that pick. I'm curious. I think he's kind of like, for me, I'm kind of on the fence with Wyndham Clark, even though I really like him as a player this entire year. There's so many guys in that upper 7K range that I think are probably going to get drafted here. I'm going to reserve opinion on Wyndham Clark. I do think he's a good pick, but let's go yes or no real quick. Joel, I'm going to start with you, and then David, I'm going to go to you. And again, contextually, we can't like everybody. So some of these guys we're probably not going to have in our player pool. So you can say, hey, I like him, but he's not going to be in my player pool. But either way, Wyndham Clark, you playing him or you're not playing him, Joel?
Yes, I like him, and I'm playing him.
All right, David.
This draft has been ruined by these last 2 picks for me. The draft is over. It's done. Call it. Because, love Wyndham Clark. Data Golf rank him as the 13th best player in the world, and he's in the mid 7K range. I mean, what are we doing? Like, his approach is amazing, plenty of distance off the tee. And I think that this kind of firm, fast kind of conditions is going to suit him. I really like the play.
Just really fast, that like my model has him 14th for this tournament. So it's like a very inline thing with what Data Golf has. I just think that he is wildly under-respected at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder, I think the reason I'm a little reserved on him is I wonder, once the level of competition rises for him on a consistent basis, is he competing with some of those other guys in that sort of 7K range that we might like? So I think that's really the only question he hasn't fully answered yet. But I mean, I agree with you. I love Wyndham Clark. All right, David, you got Patrick Cantlay. Who's next?
Yeah, so would have gone Xander. After Xander, would have gone Wyndham Clark. So I have to revert to one of my other picks that I really like the look of Justin Rose this week. He drives it long enough, and I think that's going to be the worry for a lot of people, is that they're going to worry about his driving distance. But with these firm, fast conditions, I think you need to be driving over 290, but you're going to get a lot of run out on the ball. Where Justin Rose is going to excel is his approach over 175, particularly over 200, is excellent. I mean, like ranked second on the PGA Tour since January. His putting and short game is going to keep in the game, and he's coming off a great run of 5 consecutive top 25s. Hasn't missed a cut since the Arnold Palmer. The approach game's really on point. I think he's just trending really, really nicely, and he could surprise a lot of people and get a major here. I think he's got that sort of upside at 7,700.
I agree with you. Like you said, he is a little shorter off the tee, but other than that, I mean, he checks every other box, including pedigree, including being able to win this calendar year. I think Justin Rose is just going to be continuing a great season. We'll go yes or no while we wait for some nominations. It looks like we have both of our guys nominated, but Joel, yes or no on Justin Rose?
Yeah, for sure.
Spencer, yes or no on Justin Rose?
Yeah, I think Justin Rose is very safe this week.
All right. Well, it looks like the tribe has spoken for team audience, C audience. It looks like, well, so Byron says it's Denny and Hatton. I don't think so. It looks like Spieth got nominated first by Brent Harris and Courtney Harden. So to me, it looks like Spieth and Hatton are the two guys, and Denny is on the outside looking in, I believe. So anybody can correct me there if they want to, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. So it's Jordan Spieth, it's Tyrrell Hatton. Like, we are not very money conscious, just like last week. This is probably why we should just be nominating one person instead of two. Like when we have for example, Brent, when you did Spieth and Mito, like that's great, it's efficient. But the problem is like you have multiple people doing like two guys, and it's hard to appreciate what the price consequences of that. So how much, what do we have? 7,000 left?
That's still enough money though. I mean, I think you can find a way to make that work.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to. Listen, I guess I like both of these guys. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to have either of these guys in my player pool, but I don't really have a problem with either of them. My lean is a little bit more towards Tyrrell Hatton here at 8,900 versus Spieth at 9,200, especially considering Spieth's ownership looks to be really high. Again, well, it's not super high, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Hatton's is super high. So like, we're just going chalk here, it looks like. Let's do the yes or no thing before we get back to David's pick. So David, I'll wait to go to you. You'll be third. Spencer, I'm going to start with you. Jordan Spieth, yes or no?
I'm going to say no to Spieth just because of the ownership, and I'd rather play Cameron Smith.
Yeah, me too. Tyrrell Hatton, yes or no, Spencer?
Yeah, definitely to Tyrrell Hatton. There's a lot of things in my model here that is reminding me of what we got from Matthew Fitzpatrick last year at the US Open. I think Hatton has a legitimate chance to win this tournament.
Yeah, fair enough. Joel, same questions.
Honestly, Hatton and Rose were going to be my next two picks. I love Hatton.
I was going to take Hatton also. So it wasn't going to get to you, Joel, if it makes you feel any better.
It does.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that was very sweet of you, Spencer. Okay, David, Tyrrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth, yes or no, before your pick?
Yes to both. Beginning of the week when we were first looking at pricing and everything coming out, I kind of thought that Jordan Spieth might go under the radar a little bit. And it seems like everybody's absolutely caught on to Jordan Spieth. This is the kind of course where I think his creativity is going to be a real benefit for him. And yeah, I think he could surprise a few people, but obviously not the DFS community because they're all drafting him, unfortunately. So I'll be looking at what salary we've got left. I think I'm going to have to take someone else in the 7K. Otherwise, I'm going to end up getting stuck and then just see what kind of falls back my way. So I'm going to take Ricky Fowler at 7,500. Joel rolls his eyes, which is excellent. 7,500, just way too cheap for the way that Ricky Fowler's playing. I mean, since the Players' Championship, he's had one miscut to the PGA Championship. That all came from the putter, and he just missed the cut on the number. Other than that, he's top 15 every single tournament he's entered. A whole bunch of them are elevated events. Just coming in ninth off the Memorial, which I think has decent enough correlation in terms of the approach numbers and approach metrics. He's absolutely on fire with that. He drives the ball long and straight. He's going to keep it in play. I just think he's trending really nicely, and it would be such a great comeback story, and I think that would be an amazing narrative for this week. I think being a California kid as well, some nice links here. So Fowler it is.
Yeah, I like Ricky Fowler. He's definitely on my board. And by the way, the chat, like they're kind of realizing what happened. So there's two things I'll say real quick, just from a rules and regulation standpoint. If in the future, when we're paired together, if there's like two guys that are obviously like pricey and the chat like didn't mean to like nominate them both necessarily, because obviously like the pricing doesn't work super well. It works. I mean, we can do it. I may just like, we may have probably should have gone with the Denny pick. But then again, listen, this is going to be a unique lineup. Let's just see what happens. Let's see what we can do. Flirt with the 6K range a little bit. Ricky Fowler. And the other thing is we'll just try to keep it to one vote if you can, because we had a lot of people in here. Usually, like when there's only like if there's like 5 people in here, then maybe 2 nominations would work. But in this case, let's just go 1. Ricky Fowler, yes or no, Spencer?
A couple things really fast, Sia. So I'm fine with the build that your audience is taking here. I think there's ways to get unique and different. Now, as far as the Ricky Fowler answer goes, if anybody ever says that I gave this comment on a show, I will call you a liar out in public. It will not go well. I think Ricky Fowler should be more expensive than Jason Day.
Oh my gosh.
I think he should be 8,700 in this tournament. That's what I had a fair price. I think Ricky Fowler is so wildly underpriced this week that no matter what ownership he's coming in at, it's probably still not going to be high enough.
Well, I'll tell you, Joel, I was going to ask you yes or no on Ricky Fowler, but if you say no, you're just going to be made to look like an idiot, right? Yes or no on Ricky Fowler?
Coming in right now, he's currently my highest exposed player.
All right. Spencer, it's your pick. You got Scotty Scheffler. You got Wyndham Clark. Who's next?
Wow, the audience fucked up on their picks. I'll take Denny McCarthy.
No. I should have vetoed that. I really should have, because it would have made sense for me to do that. It wouldn't have been like an Iron Fist thing. But carry on Denny.
I am kidding about the audience messing up there. I still think there's a very, like, in an ideal world, you could still take Denny McCarthy if he would have fallen back. Like, there's ways that this build would have made a lot of sense. But I love the fast, firm surfaces that we're getting from Denny McCarthy inside my model. And he's not somebody who ever really grades well for me, but he's 17th this week for safety. He's inside the top 25 overall. I also think he's mispriced from where he's at. He's going to carry a little bit of ownership, but I like Denny McCarthy this week.
Denny makes a lot of sense on a tough course. I'm probably going to be in on that, but I'm going to have to monitor. Like there's a lot of 7K chalk that we're just going to have to monitor, and that's where Sicily Kid, aka Stephen Pilardi, comes in when it comes to ownership. Because there's going to be listen, with a ton of chalk comes a ton of pivots. So you just keep that in mind. That doesn't mean you can't play the 7K chalk, but 7K chalk in particular, that dates back to the Patrick Scott days. Where we were talking about Rule 17. This is like 4 years ago. Rule 17 is just a made up thing we used to say, but it was basically fade 7K chalk. So just something to keep in mind. There's going to be like 5 or 6 guys that are very highly owned for good reason. Just keep the ownership in mind. Joel, you've got back-to-back picks. I love your start. You started with 9,900 Xander Schauffele. Then you went down to Cameron Smith. I loved what you said about Cameron Smith as he relates from a price standpoint to some of those top echelon guys, some of those top 3 guys. It made a lot of sense to me. Do the next 2 picks make a lot of sense to me? That's the question.
Well, I will preface it by saying 3 of the next 4 guys I was planning to take all just got taken. So I've reworked the strategy, but I still feel good about what I came back with. So I'm going to start with what's going to sound like a surprising pick, but hear me out. Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson has been playing better. I mean, he top 10 at the PGA. He's got 3 top 10s in a row if you're including Liv. The driver, he's taken a little bit off, and he still has a ton of distance. You know, if you see him, he doesn't look like meaty Bryson anymore. He lost a lot of weight. I think this new look Bryson is playing really good golf. The ball striking is there. He gained a ton of strokes ball striking at the PGA. And he's a California kid. These are the types of courses that he finds success at. I think that Bryson can have a really good week this week at 7,600. And then I'm also going to take here, who are we going to go? I'm going to go with Siwoo Kim. Siwoo Kim, for someone if you got to dive down now to the below 7,500, Siwoo's been playing great, and his ball striking off the tee he's been unbelievable. His ball striking's been really good. He's been hit or miss around the green. He's usually good, and he showed a really good showing in his last outing. I think this is a similar course. If he keeps that momentum up this week, I think he can have a really good result, including a top 10. By
the way, that was the answer to the trivia question. Who led the field ball striking in the 2023, just a month ago, PGA Championship? It was, in fact, Bryson DeChambeau. I love Bryson this week.
What does Joel win if he does win?
Ooh.
That's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. But
knowing Bryce, Joel, it's probably $150,000.
Yeah, it's probably more, probably $250,000. I love the Bryson pick. There's not much. I already put a lot of my picks in Discord, by the way, in the WinDaily Discord, and Bryson is littered among them. So we might hear about him. For those of you that are new to the show, at the very end of the show, we just spend a couple minutes on first round leaders, and you may or may not hear his name. I like both of these guys. David, I'm going to go to you. Are you as big on Bryson as Joel and I are, or are you maybe backing off? Maybe Like the thing about Bryson, he's been really good. Like obviously the PGA Championship, he was great. The Masters, he was decent. And on Live over the last month, he's been pretty good. So, I mean, all signs are pointing up to him. Extreme value to me. And I think there's a lot of value on Siwoo Kim as well. How are you feeling about both of those guys?
I'm seeing quite a bit of ownership for Bryson, which I was kind of surprised at, because it feels like within that range, you've got so many options that you can go to that I thought the ownership would get spread out a little bit more. Like you've got Neiman, DeChambeau, Tagala, Fowler, Clark, Taylor Moore maybe even got his maiden win this year. Like there's a ton of options there that I thought the ownership get a little bit more spread out. And it seems like a lot of it is concentrating on Bryson. And I think he's really boom or bust this week. I don't know if he's going to be in like a single entry lineup for me, but he'd be in like my GP people. Same kind of with Siwoo. I see a lot of upside there. I worry a little bit about whether he's going to be long enough. And again, I think he's a bit more volatile. He probably prefers a tighter test like we saw at the Sony Open, a little bit more like tree lined, a little bit more positional. I think something like this, which seems to be pretty wide open, he may get dominated by some of the other players.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Spencer, it's your pick. You got Scotty, you got Wyndham Clark, Denny McCarthy. That's a really solid first three. Who's next?
When you take Scheffler, you put yourself in a position to where I do think you have to continue to open up salary, at least with the way that I want to build the lineup. And I know David's talking about with this being a wide open course, and some of these players might run into distance problems. And the golfer I'm going to take right now is one of those names that very well could run into distance problems here. But I'm going to take Andrew Putnam at 6,800. I don't necessarily want to find myself overly dipping into the $6,000 range if I can get around it, but my model thought he was the most mispriced player on the board. Thought he should have been more in the mid 7,000s. The weighted scrambling is obviously going to look really good. If you put into a model, he's fourth for me there, but pretty much across the board, no matter how I ran this on a fast and firm surface, he was like a top 40 player for me. We saw at the Memorial, he came in fifth place, which is another fast sort of a surface there. The U.S. Open results have been very sound for him with back-to-back top 41s. I just think that this is an opportunity for me to continue to open up. And now I have much more maneuverability over these next two picks to where I don't get stuck where I'm just continually picking like 7,100 golfers.
All right. David, I'm going to go to you. Yes or no on Andrew Putnam?
Probably a no, just given the distance metrics. I like the narrative that if you're going to go putting, you've got Putnam and McCarthy in there, maybe pair that with a Cameron Smith. I'm not sure Scheffler enters that conversation, unfortunately, at the moment.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. David, it's your pick. You start with Cantlay, Rose, and Ricky Fowler. I think this is a really impressive start as well. Where are you going next?
Yeah, and this is just going to be a bit tactical because the audience have got back-to-back picks and I've still got a ton of salary. I'm going to grab a higher price guy on the way back, but I can't leave the PGA DraftCast without taking my boy. What does the Fox say? It's Ryan Fox.
Oh, nice.
What I love about Ryan, I mean, obviously I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. You can check that out on YouTube or find it on my Twitter. One of the things he mentioned to me, we were talking about the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. He won the Alfred Dunhill Links on the DP World Tour, which is one of the premier events on the DP World Tour. And he's performed really well at the Open Championship before. And he mentioned to me that he loves these sort of tests that are a bit tougher because he doesn't feel he has to go out there and birdie every single hole. And I feel that's really going to fit very, very well this week. Obviously, he's hugely long off the tee. I think that's a massive benefit. He's going to be able to take advantage of that drivable par 4. He's not going to be finding himself with like 250-yard approaches and some of those longer par 3s. He's going to be a natural benefit given his swing speed as well. He likes those firm, fast conditions. He recently set a course record at a link style course here in New Zealand. That wasn't the easiest course by any means, but he ripped it to shreds. So I really think he's very, very sneaky at 7,100, and he's coming off 2 top 30s in major championships. Like he's been very, very good, and I expect him to at least make the cut. But I mean, he could be in contention. Like genuinely, I believe he could be in contention this week.
Wow. And he's not just saying that because he's best buds with Ryan Fox. You should catch that interview. Ryan Fox is a extremely likable guy, which I think everybody would have thought, but it's just interesting his perspective. He's not like one of these like giants on the PGA Tour. And I just think it's interesting. Catch that. I think it's pinned. David, it's pinned to your Twitter profile at Deep Dive Golf, correct?
Yep, you can find it on there. Yep.
Yeah, if you have 20 minutes, I think it's a little longer than 20 minutes, but definitely catch that interview. Really, really good find by David Bileski. Ryan Fox is interesting. He's sort of on my radar. I haven't decided if I'm playing or not. Well, let's do the yes or no thing before we get to the back-to-back audience picks. And if anybody knows who we actually nominate, I know Russell Henley is one of the two, but if you know both, put it in there so we don't have another gate on our hands. Ryan Fox, yes or no to Spencer?
I mean, I'll trust David on this one. I feel like he's had a very good read on Ryan Fox every single time he's mentioned him on this show, so I'm not going to buck him on that.
Otherwise known as a no. Joel, yes or no on Ryan Fox?
Yes, I'm not quite as high as David is on him, but I am going to have him in my player pool.
All right. It looks like we may have nominated Mito as our second guy, which I have no problem with. Brent says it leaves us at 6,800. Totally fine with that as well. And I'm scrolling, and I don't really see any objections. There were a couple other guys that were mentioned, but I think we just go Mito. Okay, cool. So that does leave us with 6,800. Listen, I like Mito a lot. I like what he did at the PGA Championship. At the Masters, he wasn't bad, by the way. At the PGA Championship, he was 18th, made the cut at the Masters. He's been good on live as of late. Tremendous upside. I mean, he almost won a major last year, and it looks like he's kind of back to that form potentially. So, and Russell Henley rates out really well. There's not a lot of bad things you can say. There's a couple, but it's not a lot of bad things you can say about Russell Henley when you look at the metrics. So I love both of these picks. Let's go down the line real quick. I'm going to start with Russell Henley for each of you. Spencer, I'm going to start with you. Russell Henley's going to be a little popular. So is Mito Pereira. But guess what? We have a really cool build that a lot of people aren't going to have. So at least we have the benefit of that. We'll see what happens with our last pick. But Spencer, yes or no on Russell Henley?
I'll just make it very easy for you, Sia, so you don't have to go to me twice here. I was going to pick one of Russell Henley or Mito Pereira for my next choice before I made my last pick. I really like both selections.
I love that. Okay, let's do both. Joel, let's yes or no on Russell Henley and Mito Pereira?
Yes to both.
All right. David?
Maybe on Pereira. Henley's going to be situational for me. I kind of like the idea of building my lineups as a bit of a narrative this week, and I'll be building some lineups which focus more heavily on approach and driving accuracy, and Henley will certainly be kind of top of the list for those lineups that I build. I think that's a great way to get different this week on a course that we really don't know exactly how it's going to play.
And so it would be irresponsible if I didn't mention this. So if you're looking at like the 7,200 and below, the only chalky guys, I mean, let's say 7,300 and below, the only chalky guys that are approaching double-digit ownership or already have succumbed to double-digit ownership, Siwoo Kim, Mito Pereira, Russell Henley, and I think I'm missing one. Yeah, so just keep that in mind because Denny McCarthy. Keep that in mind because there's obviously going to be a lot of pivots. That doesn't mean you can't play any of those guys, but you just have to keep it in mind. There's so many guys that were also nominated that you can pivot with your lineup if you feel like you need to. So just know that those are all great picks, but they're also going to be pretty popular. David, you just pulled your buddy Ryan Fox, fellow New Zealander, countryman. What's next?
Yeah, so I feel I'm going to have to take this guy because I don't know that he's going to get past either Spencer or Joel. Maybe he will. I'm not too sure. But the 8K range raises a whole bunch of questions, and the one guy who probably answers the most of them for me is Tony Finau. I think that his long approach play is very, very good. He's played very well at Augusta before, and there's been a lot of comps drawn this week from people on the ground that that Augusta National might be correlated to here. But the long irons is really what draws it to me. I think something like the Mexico Open, where we saw a ton of shots over 200 approach, we saw him perform very, very well there. Yes, it's a big boy tournament. Yes, I understand he's won tournaments which have been weaker, but another of his victories came at Memorial Park, and I don't think that's the worst correlation to here at all.
All right, Tony Finau. He's not getting a ton of ownership. He's in the double digits, but usually when Tony Finau at a major is down in that 8,800, 9,000 range, he usually picks up quite a bit of ownership. So it's certainly reasonable as of now. Again, we'll have the ownership article published at WinDailySports.com. It'll be published in our WinDaily Sports Discord as well. So go to WinDaily, sign up, check all that out. You get a week free, as some of you already know. Tony Finau is going to be a no for me ultimately. Joel, yes or no on Tony?
It's a no for me as well.
Spencer?
I love the Augusta comps. I think that if Tony Finau is going to win a major, and it could come this week, I think it either comes at the Masters or a U.S. Open. And if you can give me a U.S. Open that plays like Augusta, I was going to take Tony Finau. So David was correct that to make the pick then. And this is a very difficult spot now because legitimately the last 3 picks that I was going to take have been taken. So I don't know if that means that we're all in like the same general agreement here, which is maybe a good thing that we keep taking each other's plays. And I guess I'll move us along and try to make a selection right now. I have to be cognizant of where Joel is and what Joel is going to do. Man, I mean, I will be honest. Like, I wish I was in a position here where I could take Siwoo, I could take Mito, I could take Henley. I don't know if I love it. I just don't know who else I can pick at this point. I will take Gary Woodland.
Oh, interesting. Listen, go ahead, because I want to comment on that. Tell me why you're picking him.
My model likes him. It does think he has a value at the price tag that he's at. I mean, obviously, he's a major championship winner. I think the form has turned around for him this season to where I don't know if we've necessarily gotten if you run a model on him, I think the recent form is going to be a lot better than the long-term form. And that's kind of the answer that I go to. And he's a big, strong guy that can play out of this thick rough if he gets into these positions. And I know that the around the green game is always going to be somewhat of a concern for him, but he has the distance that you're looking for, and he's inside the top 5 of my model for weighted proximity. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there of distance and iron play.
Yeah, and this is one of those times where he's not taking up a lot of ownership because Gary Woodland's a popular player because on the metrics that a lot of people care about, the ball striking, the off the tee stuff, he usually rates out really well there, and people are going to take the chance on him, especially in the low 7K range with the putter usually. But they're not doing that this time around, and it's. I mean, one thing that's interesting, he's so bad with the putter, but he did gain a little bit both with the putter and around the green at the Memorial. Typically, loses quite a bit with the putter, but the ball striking, you're right, is in really, really good shape. I think that's a risk worth taking personally. I do want to move us along to Joel's final 2 picks, but I do want to get a yes or no on Gary Woodland. I think I'm going to end up being a slight yes. It looks like he's only going to be in like the 6 to 7% range. So you don't need to do much to be, twice the field on Gary Woodland or even 3 times the field if that's what you want to do. I think I might speculate with Gary Woodland. I do like the upside, but David, yes or no on Gary?
Yeah, I like Gary Woodland this week. The long line approach especially is very, very good. I think we all want to see Gary Woodland win tournaments like this again, just like the US Open. So I worry about the ownership a little bit because the putter can be just ice cold.
Yeah, and Joel, how about you? Yes or no?
Yeah, I like Gary Woodland.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm convinced on Gary Woodland. Joel, you got 2 picks left. Who's it going to be?
All right. So I got to make this work salary-wise. There's some other guys I would have taken here that are already gone, but I'm happy to get – first, I'm going to take Hideki, who's fallen to me, who's just been playing very consistently. All-around game, right? I think that's what Spencer referenced earlier. You want someone who's got the all-around game to succeed here. He certainly has that. I think with a hot putter this week, Hideki can do some serious damage and compete to win the tournament. I'm going to pair him with what seems to be a heavily debated golfer this week, especially on Twitter, and that's Sahith Theegala. Sahith Theegala is a local. He should have a lot of experience on this course. He's also wildly wild off the tee, which is going to be an issue here. So I think if he finds a way to keep the ball in the fairway, which wide fairways, I think he's going to have a really, really good week. And I do think that extra experience he has playing here should work to his advantage.
Yeah, I like that. By the way, audience, nobody's in our price bracket with the 6,800 that we have left. So if you want to, you can start nominating now. Sahith Theegala was a topic of conversation in our sort of WinDaily text chat earlier. I don't think I'm going to play him, but there are certain reasons to play him. I do like Decky. I do want to move it along, though. So I'm going to go yes or no. David, you seem to shake your head a little bit with Decky. I think you might have wanted to grab a piece of him. Yes or no on both of these guys?
just kind of more the fact that, of course, Joel takes Hideki Matsuyama. That was more the reaction than anything else. Like he's guaranteed to withdraw now. But yeah, he would have been in kind of the thought pattern for me a little bit. The Sahith thing I really like. I mean, everyone's going to make bogeys here. Absolutely every player is going to make bogeys here. What I like with Theegala is that he's performed well at those tough courses like the players, for example, where you can go birdie, bogey. He's got to rack up points that way. And I think that he can bounce back incredibly well from some of those pitfalls that others might get frustrated at.
All right, fair enough. Spencer, yes or no on Decky and Sahith?
Yes to both of them, and I love the short game that Sahith brings to the table. And everybody thinks that he's a volatile golfer. I mean, what is he at now? 18 consecutive made cuts or whatever the number is. Like, he's much more consistent than you think he is. And a U.S. Open in California feels like a really nice tournament for him to maybe pop in a big way here. So I think there's a lot of upside for him. I don't have him on an outright ticket, but I can certainly understand the intrigue of that upside that he does bring. And for DFS here, it's a great pick.
All right. Spencer, speaking of great picks, you got to close out. You just took Woodland. Who's next? Who's last?
So I'm going to end this with a golfer that I didn't plan when this show started. He blew up my model in a good way. Of every single time I ran this, he was popping up. Like if Scheffler was number one, he would either be number two. And sometimes when I ran it for upside, he would sneak into this mix here. I know that the win concerns that he has are going to be a problem. Like he can't seem to close on Sunday, but I do think he's a top 10 option in this tournament. I'm going to go with Rory. I think Scheffler and Rory is a really strong duo with 4 names beneath them here that, like, I feel like I have some safety with McCarthy, Woodland, and Putnam. Clark is a mispriced player for me, so I kind of like this build that I have this week.
Yeah, I like it too. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. Joel, let's go to you real quick before David's final pick. Yes or no on Rory McIlroy?
Yes, I mean, this is a discount for what you normally see from Rory, so yes.
And David?
Yeah, I like Rory this week. I think the approach metrics suit him a lot more than we saw at the Canadian Open last week. Wedges aren't his strongest, but his long irons and distance are going to be a real asset around here.
Yeah, and as bad as it feels like Rory has played, not that anybody thinks he's been like terrible, but 9th, 7th, 7th over his last 3, I mean, is telling me something for somebody who doesn't really seem to have the game completely dialed in. David, your game is dialed in. You had Nick Taylor at 66-1 last week in our round 4 matchups, which you put in the WinDaily Discord. And of course you put on Tally site as well. You went 6 for 6, not 6 for 7, not 5 for 7, not 5 for 6. You were perfect with Nick Taylor, perfect with your matchups. The question is, are you perfect with your final pick on the PGA DraftCast? What you got?
What a professional segue. I mean, look at this from Sia. Just the quarterbacking from Sia is on point every week. Let's just point that out. And of course, I mean, he just talked me up massively, which always does good things for my ego. I'll end my picks with Shane Lowry. I was between Lowry and Matsuyama. I think a lot of people are going to look at last week for Shane Lowry and they're going to go, his approach numbers went backwards. But Shane Lowry's strength isn't necessarily in those wedge players. It's more in the 200-plus yards. And I really like what he's been doing lately, particularly at Augusta. Like his last 4 tournaments at the Masters, he's finished in the top 25, including a 3rd in 2022, 16th this year. He was 23rd at Southern Hills at the PGA Championship, and he was actually a lot more in contention than that number suggests. And he's 14th at Riviera, so he's got some good, some correlating form to another designed course by Thomas just down the road in LA, 14th there this year. The approach numbers have been very, very good other than last week, and he likes these firm, fast links like tests, so I think he's kind of sneaky. I don't think a lot of people either are going to be building with 2 players in the 8K range, so I think it's a little way to get different in terms of your lineup. All
right. I actually like Shane Lowry. And by the way, I think he's a sneaky play too. We already have our pick in. The audience has already chosen Adam Schenk at 6,800. So we can actually even pull the board down and just get right into our first round leaders. Before we do that, real quick, you can pull the board down if you want. I want to do a yes or no on Shane Lowry to Joel and Spencer. Yes or no? Let's start with Spencer.
David was in a really tricky position there with how to round out this build. I think from where he was at, like, to me at least, it would have been Lowry, Day, or Sungjae, I guess. I probably would have gone Jason Day, but I always usually go Jason Day. I think it's very close. It's just a tough spot for David there.
All right. Joel, yes or no on Lowry?
I'm going to say no, but tough one for me.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, Joel, let's do it. Let's fire off some first round leaders before we get out of here.
We're going to fire off the first round leaders, but real quick, before we do, hit the like button, give us a follow. We'll come back. We'll post these lineups. You tell us who you think's going to win We will come back and pick a winner. But to get rich on Thursday evening, Spence, who are you picking in the first round leader market?
I took Scotty Scheffler at 18-1. This was kind of my way to try to get some exposure to him. I'm a little bit afraid that the putter does go neutral or hot, and he might run away with this tournament. So I thought at 18-1 for a round, that was an intriguing number. I took Sungjae Im at 60-1 and Jason Day at 55-1, two golfers that I just talked about a second ago. And then Tony Finau at 50-1.
I love it. I love it. All right, David, how about you? Who are you looking at in the first round leader market?
So full push to the mornings for me for first round leaders. I can't see someone getting out there in the afternoon and scoring a really crispy, fast, firm conditions. I'm sure that the first round leader is going to come from the morning wave. Of those guys, I like Xander at 33-1, Justin Rose at 50-1, Ricky Fowler at 66-1, Sepp Straka at 125-1. I'm seeing out there he has got the upside, but he was fourth at the PGA Championship in the first round. He's from New Zealand. It's going to be Ryan Fox at 90-1 as your first round leader.
Wow.
Book it.
Wow. You interviewed him, so you know something. You got the information.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right, I got a couple plays for my first round leader. My favorite one it is my long shot at 80-1. The man I drafted last with course experience, Seth Theegala. I think he can come out. He can fire off a really low round. I think that 80-1 number is a little bit too high for him. So I really like the 80-1 for him. I also like Ricky Fowler. The number I'm seeing for him is 55-1. If you get 66, then jump on that. That's a really good number. And I like Max Homa at 45-1. I'm going to throw a late one on there in Tyrrell Hatton at 40-1. See ya. Enlighten us. Who's going to be the leader in the first round Thursday night?
I'll tell you what, I like the Theegala number. That is a little too high. He could absolutely crush it for one round, especially being kind of a neighbor to this course. Patrick Rogers is going to be my long shot. I want to get him out of the way, 110-1. I like him in DFS, but I like him boomer bust, obviously, 110-1 for one round. I could see it. Victor Hovland, 30-1. Bryson DeChambeau, I like him a lot, 45-1. Siwoo Kim, 65-1. But listen, the lock button, the absolute for sure, surefire first round leader. Man, you think I'm going to go against David Bileski after what we saw last week? You think I'm going to go against that? Your first round leader at the U.S. Open at LACC. This is 2023, but it's Tuesday, not Thursday. We are predicting the future. Your first round leader, it's none other than at 35-1, Xander Schauffele. Book it.
That was easy.
That's it. There you have it. You come back. You come back on Thursday night, and now you have 35 times more dollars than you had Thursday morning. So it's really, it's really that easy. That's it. That's all you got to do. It was a blast drafting with you guys this evening. I cannot wait for Thursday. This is going to be a super exciting tournament. The majors are bowl season. This is what we get up for. I think this is going to be a really fun one. Good luck this week, fellas. See ya. Am I missing anything?
Yes, you forgot to thank the audience. We have a lot of people in here. A lot of you hit the like button. A lot of you were super active in the chat. We really appreciate it. We're going to have some huge guests. First of all, I know you come here for the analysis, or at least I hope you do, because I think it's top notch. But we're going to have some really exciting guests, some guests that are going to surprise you over the next few tournaments on into the FedEx Cup playoffs. So very excited about that. Stay tuned for it. And of course, don't forget, you never want to forget sports.